What's up, students? I want you to think about your semester or just these last few months. Do you feel like this semester is busier than any other semester you've had before? Do you feel like you have more homework than ever? Do you feel like you have more extracurriculars or things vying for your attention or on your calendar or your schedule? Maybe for you, that's this semester. Maybe it was a previous one. I think one thing that we can all agree on is that it's hard to be still. It's hard to stop what we're doing. It's hard to turn down the noise and just be. Because it's hard, it can affect many different areas of our lives, and one area in particular is our faith. Think about it, even here at church, because we do so many things together, sometimes it can be hard to be still. And in those moments, I think it's important for us to continue to ask ourselves, how do we connect with God when we're constantly surrounded by other people? Can we connect with God when we're surrounded by other people? Here's something important that I want us to be reminded of, and it's this. It's that faith is personal. Listen, doing life together and with other people is important and it's a great thing, but ultimately we have to be reminded that faith is personal. There's something incredible about worshiping with your peers and with hundreds or thousands of people beside you, whether it's at church or at a retreat or a camp experience. But in those moments, we have to be reminded and constantly be reminded that faith is personal and that, yes, you're worshiping the same God, but that same God wants to connect with just you because you're you. And so we have to continually remind ourselves of this because as life gets busy, we begin to forget. Listen, have you ever wondered, does God see you? Have you ever thought, my story is not like that other person's story, and so God must not care about me? Have you ever thought, God seems to be answering everyone else's prayers, but he's just not answering mine? Or have you ever felt like you were just stuck in your faith and that God wasn't responding? Sometimes it's hard for us to slow down enough to be able to see and to connect with God. And in those moments, many times we ask ourselves, does God even see or notice me? Does he even care about me? And I want us to see, those of us who have ever struggled with that before, I want us to see a moment in the life of Jesus that is a great reminder of a very important truth. And this moment is found in the Gospel of Mark, in chapter 5 in your New Testament. In this moment, we're introduced to a woman who is sick, and it says that she has a physical ailment that has plagued her for years, that even doctors have been unable to help her. And in her moment of desperation, she sees Jesus walking through a massive crowd, and she believes that this man is different, and there's something special about him, and that if she can just get close enough to him to touch his garment, just his robe, she believes that enough is enough power to heal her. And so in this moment, she walks through this massive crowd where there are hundreds and thousands of people around Jesus, and she finally gets close enough to touch his garment, and I want you to see what happens next. It says that at once, Jesus realized that power had gone out from him. He turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my clothes?" Now, I love the disciples' response to this moment. As Jesus asks them, he says, "Okay, who touched me?" It says the disciples look at him like, "Are you serious? Like, we are surrounded by 1,000 people fighting to get close to you. Everybody is touching you right now." And yet Jesus says, "No, someone specifically touched me." Who was it? And here's what I want you to see in this moment. It is chaos. Jesus is famous and everybody is trying to get to him, and there are thousands of people trying to get to him. And yet in this moment of chaos, he stops everything. And in this moment, he realizes somebody has touched me. And it says the power has left him, and he realizes something has taken place, and he stops everything. Before we move on, I want you to think about this. Have you ever felt like you are just one of 100, 1,000, a million other people vying for God's attention? Have you ever felt like God just doesn't care about your problems specifically, and he doesn't answer your prayers? Or have you ever felt like because your life or your story is different from that other person, that God just doesn't care or listen to you? If you've ever wrestled with that now or in the past, I want you to see two things from this moment in Jesus' life. And here's the first one. It's that Jesus sees you. And in this moment we're given the life of Jesus that is full of chaos and noise and distractions. In the midst of all of that, Jesus stops everything and says, somebody here needs to connect with me. And it says that his disciples don't even understand, that they're almost making fun of Jesus, like, are you serious? Who touched you? Everyone's fighting to get close to you. And yet Jesus says, no, stop. Somebody here is looking for me. Somebody here is trying to connect with me. And he stops everything. And listen, as Jesus walked this earth, he connected with people, and even more so now, if you're asking yourself, does God care? Does God see me? Does he listen to me? I want you to know that Jesus sees you, and he wants to connect with you. And here's the second thing I want you to see in this moment, and it's this, is that Jesus cares. Now, in this moment, as Jesus is on his way to do something incredibly important, and he's being distracted and being mobbed by so many people, not only does Jesus notice this woman, but he stops everything enough to identify her. And he recognizes somebody is trying to connect with me in this moment. Somebody needs me right now. And he stops everything and he calls this woman forth. And it says that when she comes to him, she's afraid. She's almost embarrassed, or she's trying to apologize for what she's done. And I want you to see Jesus' response when he finally gets to meet this woman. It says, he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." In this moment where Jesus is interrupted and there are so many things vying for his attention, he stops it all to connect with one person. And if you've ever doubted if God wants to connect with you, if you've ever doubted if God hears you or listens or if he cares, I want you to know that he does. In the middle of the chaos, Jesus stopped everything to meet with this woman, and he wants to meet with you. And ultimately, students, I want you to know this, that God wants to know you. And you may feel like he doesn't care, you may feel like he doesn't see you, but I want you to know that he does. And so students, my challenge to you is to fight to be still, to fight to make time to stop the noise, the distractions, and just to connect with the God who created you. Because he wants to know you, because he cares about what you have to say, and he wants to meet you. And ultimately, students, I want us to be reminded of this as we do life together as a small group and as a student ministry and as a church. It's that faith is personal and that God wants to meet with you just because you are you.